welcome back, viewers, to Focus on Africans. We have a very special edition today, the first time in Ghana, and we're at the University of Ghana and Legon. And today we have one of the most outstanding African intellectuals, Professor Kwabena Nketia. And he has agreed to have a discussion with us this morning. Thank you very much for honoring our invitation, Professor. Yes, we'll start this program by asking you to tell us something about yourself. Who is Professor Kwabena Nketia?
Well, right now I am emeritus professor of 3 universities.
Okay.
First of the University of Ghana, and then the University of California, Los Angeles, and I am Andrew Mellon, emeritus professor of the University of Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh.
Really?
Pittsburgh.
3
universities.
Wow.
It so happened that I started my career here at the University of Ghana.
Okay.
In 1952, I was a research fellow in the Department of Sociology.
But please, sir, can you take us back to where were you born? And
I was born in Mampon, Ashanti. I come from the Ashanti area. And I went to school there, and I continued at the Presbyterian Training College in Akropong, which is
the hills.
Mountains there. Right. Okay. That's where I did my teacher training. And it was where I developed my interest in
teaching
African music and African culture and so forth.
Okay.
And everything followed from there.
I know that's a long time, but are there some things you still remember from your youth?
Yes.
What are things you still remember?
Well, I remember my, I'll talk a little bit about my training college days, because I was appointed as a tutor in music, and I was teaching my own language too.
Okay.
And I was interested in composition.
Music composition? Yeah.
And I met a very renowned Ghanaian composer called Amu.
Amu?
Amu.
Okay.
Yeah. And in a brief conversation, he asked me, he said, "You are interested in music?" And then he said, "Yes, young man, don't copy my music.
The original.
The original." And then he said, "Go to the old people and learn traditional music," because that is how I started.
Okay.
That is what changed my life.
So you took his advice?
So I went back to my hometown, and I had a grandmother who was the leader of a performing group. So I went and studied traditional songs.
Okay.
And I collected about 60 songs from her, and I continued in another area and collected another one. So I had a manuscript of several songs that I had learned.
Traditional songs?
Traditional songs. So, and I've written them in a manuscript.
Okay.
And when Ida Ward from the School of Oriental Studies visited Ghana, she came to the college and found this manuscript. And that gave me a scholarship to go and study linguistics
in England. The US?
Yes, in England.
In England, okay, in the UK.
At the School of Oriental and African Studies.
That's how you went to England?
That's how I went to England.
And I was
1940. 1940.
No, it's a long time.
1944.
Okay. And you studied the music at the...
I studied music at Trinity College. I did my degree. I did linguistics. I came back, went back to the college and continued for a couple of years. And then I was offered a research fellowship in the Department of Sociology at the University of Ghana in 1952.
I was going to ask you, you've been teaching since 1940 something.
Yes.
In Africa, it's not highly regarded and not highly remunerated. So
remuneration you don't think about. What you do is what keeps you going, because it is exciting.
You love teaching.
Right.
What are the attractions?
Well, when I was research fellow in African studies at this university, it was then headed by Busia, Professor Busia.
Okay, the former Prime Minister.
Right. Okay. Right. So he understood the need for doing research into music, dance, and so forth. So I was a research fellow with this position of lecturer.
He was a
with
motivator.
No students, and I had all the time to do research. And he prepared for this. He got a vehicle, tape recorder, and so forth. And that was the beginning of this archive.
Okay.
The recordings I did during that period, for a period of 10 years, they are all there.
Really?
And from that time, when Nkrumah, became the great man in Ghana, he wanted an Institute of African Studies.
Okay.
So I became a part of the new institute.
Oh, you were a pioneer. Okay.
Right. And so I was in the institute 3 years, and I became director of that Institute of African Studies, for quite a number of years until I was ready to retire.
Okay.
And then I went to UCLA. But I got a job at UCLA before I retired, in 1968. UCLA wanted
offered you a job.
A job. And 69, I was given a tenured professorship at UCLA. And
how did you combine it with being director of the
since I could not leave my job in Ghana, they agreed that I could commute.
Really?
Yes.
They needed you so badly.
Yes. So, and I was tenured. And it meant that when I came back to Ghana, I was on leave of absence, of course, without pay.
Okay.
And then I would go from Ghana to the University of California on leave of absence without pay.
For how long were you doing that?
I did this until I was ready to retire from the University of Ghana.
What year was that?
It was 1969 I started, and when I was almost 60, 2 years before I got it,
you were shuttling up and down?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Let me ask you this question about music. To someone like myself who doesn't know much, what is music apart from sound and good melodies? What does music
Good melodies and good beats and
what does music mean?
Yes, music, I mean it's something we listen to and enjoy, dance to, perform when we are merry, perform when we are sad, perform when we have certain events and so forth.
But how important is the music?
Yes, because it has a great power in bringing people together,
But how important is it in people's culture?
In our culture, in African culture, it's extremely important.
In what ways?
Because it is linked to all the important events in our traditional life.
Music is linked to everything.
Everything, your worship, Orisha, everything, your rites, your festivals, your weddings, your funerals. And it is so organized that you have people who are performing in all these areas who learn the music, while they are young. And so that tradition is very strong. Everywhere in Africa, we have the traditional music.
And
we are apt to forget this traditional music because now we have all the bands. And
I'm going to ask you that.
And we think that the bands are now the thing.
I'm going to ask you that question. In England, you studied ethnomusicology.
I studied music and linguistics.
And I was going to ask, what does ethnomusicology
mean? Well, ethnomusicology is the study of music which takes into account not only the music itself, but its relationship to culture.
Okay.
So that various aspects of music can be explained by reference to the culture. Right. So that is ethnomusicology. Just hearing the music by itself, it's one thing, but understanding what goes into the music, the meaning, why we are doing it, who can do it, and so forth and so on.
Okay, how important is languages in music?
Language is extremely important.
But in Africa, we don't seem to take our languages seriously.
But in ethnomusicology,
you have to.
I take it very seriously.
And your students?
Yes.
They have to?
Yes, they have to, because you can't study African music without the
understanding language.
Played on.
You were speaking Yoruba?
Yes, I'm. And the master drum plays. And it is language.
So it's also a means of communication.
Yes, because it also gives you the basis for the music. It's not just the music. Because Kosolo sinidi elosile iridu kosolo sinida. You destroy it.
Okay, that's to have a rhythm.
Okay. You have your rhythm and your melody.
Okay. And checking your CV, you have about 218 publications.
Yes.
You seem very prodigious.
Well, I've been...
How important are books to you?
Well, very important. All my life, and I'm still writing
books.
And so forth, because I think it is important to put down what I've learned from others, from my traditional people.
Okay, you're transmitting knowledge.
And what I think about and so forth, so that other people
can learn from it.
That's
rather unselfish of you.
Right. And then also on the basis of that, I can write my own music. Write music in the pure traditional style, or write music in my own contemporary style. And the same with my language. I speak my language. Yes, I can write poetry in my language. I have books of
Which
poetry
is not the case nowadays. Many people cannot even write their language.
Well, yeah. We don't seem to be taking it seriously. But I learned to do this quite.
But what do you think is responsible for our lack of enthusiasm about our language?
Well, it is because we have relied too much on the things from outside and assumed that they are sufficient. And we have forgotten that our identity is very much a part, displayed by our culture. As soon as you are conscious of your identity, then you also want to be sure that you have your culture. Because without it, everywhere you go,
you'll be underclass.
Right. And so if you find me worldwide going to things, it is because my African
identity.
My book on the music of Africa has been translated into German.
So people
Chinese.
Respect you for keeping to your identity.
For bringing something from my cultural background to the general field.
They respect you for that?
Yes, because this is what Africa is telling us. This is the field. And Africa says, this is another way of doing it.
And I was going to ask you, African language is equipped to deal with science?
Actually, I translated some scientific books into
Tree.
The story of flying and the story of healing, which involved scientific terms and so forth.
And you were able to, you did it in Tree?
Yes, and I was interested in how I could use my language, to convey the same information.
Was it possible?
And yes, I published the book, and it was read in schools.
Are they using them now?
It's a long time ago. So, but it was also to show that you can develop the language
to whatever level you want.
Right. You can create new words. You can, for new terms and so forth, because that is how other people have developed their language.
Yeah, which brings us to the next question. As an educationist, why do you think Africa remains the only society that is not imparting knowledge in its indigenous language?
Probably it is not only Africa, but we have been overtaken by development in the round. The things going around in this world have advanced so much that there are certain areas where we have to catch up. But certainly...
But we're not making conscious effort to start using our...
Well, you see, the colonial system did not help us, because the colonial system was just interested in giving us what the colonial system had. And they were not encouraging us to look at our own. You see, we abandoned them. You see, it is not their fault, it was our fault. You see, but those who became conscious of their own heritage started to work on it and so forth. So now today there are African philosophers who are looking at
ways
to write. There are all those intellectuals who are looking at it. But the important thing is how this becomes a general thing.
Yeah.
So that a young
people
person
take it,
growing up,
Yeah, you were in, because you as Professor Nketia was recommended by the director of the Prince Colors Fund in Amsterdam. You were in Holland. You see that everywhere they use their language.
Yes.
It's a country of 20 million people. So what do you think is wrong with us? Why are we not?
Well, it is because, again, it is because of the colonial system.
But we're not making, what conscious effort are people like you making to generalize it?
For a number of years, when I was at the Microphone, I was writing books in my own language. And I was writing.
By your colleagues, not?
And I was writing books for schools.
Okay.
I was writing poetry in my own language because I felt challenged. I was, during my student days, my English teacher, who happened to be a Scot, was talking about prosody in English, and was talking about iambic pentameter and I was fascinated by the terms. So you wanted and then I tried to see if I am iambic pentameter in my language. So the songs I knew from childhood, I tried to analyze, and I couldn't find them. Oh? Yeah. So that gave me the idea that we also may have our own way of doing it.
And you wrote a book in 1961, The Problem of Meaning in African Culture.
That's right.
What were you discussing there?
Well, I was, as an ethnomusicologist, I was trying to show how important it is in studying African music to take into account what the traditional people say about their music. Okay. So that you know why they are doing it, the meaning of the thing. And in fact, I got to that point because I was recording traditional music, as a research fellow, and some of the old ladies came to me and said, do you understand? Don't take the recording back without asking this and that. Oh, okay. And so I said, well, ethnomusicology. You shouldn't
take it for granted. You should try to understand it.
Ethnomusicology is not just recording the sound, but also finding out.
Please, we should take this short break. When we come back, we'll continue with Professor Kwabena Nketia. Welcome back, viewers. The program is focused on Africans, and our guest today is Professor Nketia. Please, sir, you also published a book, The Role of Universities in Cultural Development in Africa.
Yes, I've been.
With due respect, sir, when you look back, do you think our universities have failed us?
Well, our universities now have African Studies institutes.
But not much seems to be happening.
Well, my university has changed. Everything has changed since the 50s.
Yes, sir.
Because when we started our congregation commencement, those things, police band was performing for, but now we drum.
I was thinking about imparting knowledge to the general public. I mean, you are doing fantastic at the university enclave.
Yes.
But when we look at the erosion of our culture in the society.
Yes. Well, you see, the job is really a great one because you have to do this in the university. You have students you are taking care of. You also assume some responsibility in helping your government to have a cultural policy related to your traditions. And I served.
Do you have that?
Yes, I served on the Arts Council of Ghana, an interim committee for an Arts Council of Ghana in Nkrumah's time, and the full committee after Nkrumah's time. And I became involved even in reorganizing some of the functions, state for the independence celebration. I brought the traditional drummers,
and it was accepted.
Oh yes, yes. In fact, before I did it, one of the ministers, Kwabena, called me and said, we want to have a different kind of ceremony. I've been listening to your poems on radio, and maybe we can. So we changed that. And if you read Nkrumah's autobiography, he was so impressed by the ceremony and the horns and the drums and so forth. And I was standing there helping
them to organize it. Okay. And you mentioned colonialism as one of the problems we face.
Yeah.
But the question now arises: the Asians were able to restructure their society after colonization. Where did you fail to do the same?
Because the colonial institutions and so forth were very strong institutions.
In Africa?
Yes, and not only that, I mean, the whole mind system
was changed.
I mean, you weren't really encouraged to look at your own culture as worthwhile and so forth. It took some time, it took some kind of renaissance.
So, do you think we have an African Renaissance?
Well, we've had little bits of it here and there. I think now we are all agreed that we need to hold fast to our culture. What we don't, yes, and what we don't have leadership in the process, because we can't do this thing without knowledge of the culture.
But who's going to provide the leadership?
Well, I don't know. You see,
what are your own ideas?
Well, the job is so much. You can't be in the classroom and be out there at the same time.
Agitating.
You can only do so much, as an individual.
Let's talk about your music,
the thing that you contribute, when
the ideas and the
right, and when you are a member of
the board of
a committee and so forth.
And
as a musician, also creating your own music and performing and so forth. At least make people aware.
Also, teaching, imparting knowledge to new students also.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
So your only two way, you are doing your best.
As much as I can do.
Let's talk about your music, sir. And you play a number of musical instruments.
Well, I don't play too many.
But do you have a favorite?
Yeah, I play the piano. I sing.
Do you have a favorite musical instrument?
No. Yeah, no, I write music for the piano, but I write also for violin and other things, because I believe that writing music for my own African instrument is important.
Okay.
The problem with my African instruments is that some of them, are not really tuned the way I want, and I need a lot of technology to improve on them and so forth. But I could use those that are available.
Can't your student improve on those?
Well, it's a technical area. I brought one of my students from California to come and set up an musical instrument technology workshop at the University of Science and Technology. Because the student, my graduate student, was learning to play African drums, because I was a professor there at UCLA from 1969. So I had students there and I had students here. And one of the students had a father who was an engineer, and he had learned to make our drums with fiberglass.
Really?
Yes,
no longer with skin.
In Los Angeles. So I brought him to Ghana to look at the possibility of setting up a musical instrument technology. And we surveyed the area. We thought we could make fiberglass drums easily, because the thing we needed was already there.
Raw materials.
Yes, because we had fiber. We have plastic shops. We are making baskets and so forth, so we could make drums. But we decided we won't make fiberglass drums in Ghana because we have plenty of wood, and so we should
be able to
improve the technology for making them.
How successful was it?
So, well, it was successful. We set it up. We produced a few drums, but my student could only be here for a couple of years. And after that,
no
the
continuity.
Economy became difficult and so forth and so on. So it did not go on. And I still regret that I set it up over there and not here.
Because there you could manage it better.
Exactly, I could supervise it.
And the last count, you've attended over 208 conferences all over the world. How many countries have you been to?
Almost everywhere. Everywhere, Tokyo.
Do you have a favorite country?
In China, I was there for 5 weeks giving a course to Chinese professors on ethnomusicology. Really? Because they had translated my book on the music of Africa
to Chinese.
And they translated it into Japanese.
Okay, so you were.
And they have translated it into Italian, German,
Dutch.
and so forth. And
Okay.
rhymes.
Do you have a favorite country?
Favorite?
Which is your favorite country?
Well, I mean, all those countries I visited were very interesting in terms of expanding my own horizon.
Okay.
And in fact, also assuring me of the importance of African music in the world context. Because if people in Japan are reading my book on the music of Africa, that's a big thing. And when I was there was a Ghanaian xylophonist who had been discovered by Japanese, and he was the sort of promoter. And he came from, that xylophonist was in my institute, and he was giving performances there, and so forth. So the worldwide contact, assured me of the importance of African music in the world, And all the great musicians I have met, they were all interested in what Africa
music can offer.
Can offer.
And I mentioned earlier that the director of the Prince Claus Fund recommended you for this interview. What is your relationship with the fund?
Well, as I said, I was when they started the Prince Claus Award. I think the second award series. I was nominated for one.
Okay.
So
you are a laureate.
Yes, I was. We had a big ceremony in Ghana.
In Ghana?
Yes.
Yeah.
At the embassy.
What year was that?
God, it's quite a long time. But from then on, I continued to have
a contact with them.
Right, and be involved in their programs and so forth.
You seem very passionate about African music. What does Africa mean to you?
Well, that's my life.
Africa?
Yeah, because whatever people relate to me because of my Africa, what my Africa has to offer. Very soon, this June, they're performing my music in America.
Where in America?
Leavenworth, near Seattle.
Okay.
And that's a.
Are you going there?
Yes, 4 days, because they're performing some of my very difficult compositions.
Difficult composition?
Yes, difficult because I don't have the performers in Ghana.
Do you mind to share some of it on the program?
Well, yeah, well, maybe, yes, maybe you may find. I also have a CD, computer generated, sound, my own compositions.
Computer generated?
Yes, but you can select something you like and put it on.
Okay, thank you very much.
So yeah, this will illustrate what I do. I do the pure traditional. I can take the high life and treat it in my own art music way.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm interested in the whole of Africa, not just Ghana. And even in Ghana, I'm Asante, but I use materials from Ewe, from Busa, Katsina, and so forth.
What is the common denominator?
Well, for us in Africa, our common denominator is our rhythm.
Our rhythm?
Yes, the way we organize our rhythm.
Is this totally different from...
Very different from, if I say, what good is the Uber bird to be boiled in the soup? A better bird has been left on the other side of the river. Okay. If I were to sing it, I'd do,
you can make music from it.
I won't do, that is the Western way.
Okay.
So different.
Okay, very different.
So, I mean, all those little things come together to separate our way of doing it.
But there are some people who argue that because of globalization, racial identity are no longer necessary.
Well, no, globalization is very important in terms of opening the door for everybody to understand
one another,
different cultures.
Okay.
but it doesn't prevent you
from having your identity,
making a contribution from your own perspective.
So you have to contribute, and that's the underlying.
Right, so that I have a global audience.
You have to go.
See? So if they are performing my music,
doesn't mean that you have to disappear into the midst of global.
If they are performing my music in America, it means that we are part of the global thing. But what they are performing is my composition, not an American composition. So globalization means that we have a way of spreading out and sharing. It does not mean that we throw ours away and just take somebody's, because that is more something or other. So you must distinguish between the old imperialist, kind of globalization and the current globalization where we share.
So sharing is the way they are.
Right.
So we shouldn't go and disappear into globalism without contributing something.
Yeah, right. Because the other one is the imperialist aggressive thing, where you are pushing your Western thing because this is the thing that should have all the market.
The imposition.
That's right.
And you are the director of African Institute, yeah? Do you have a lot of students from other African countries?
Well, right now I'm a retired emeritus, but I still come. I have my office. When I retired from University of Ghana, I continued at UCLA. And then I found that I could retire early. So I retired early.
How many times have you retired?
Well, 3 times. 3 times.
But you're still not tired?
No.
Okay.
No, because when I retired from UCLA, it was because University of Pittsburgh found me and I gave a lecture and they wanted me. So they gave me. So instead of retiring at 65 at UCLA, I continued. Pittsburgh, you could go on 70 and over. And when at 70 I said I was coming home, I said, well, it is your choice. I could have stayed on because they froze the Andrew Mellon professorship.
Okay.
Was just so
especially for you now?
Yes. So I was there. I was even chair of the department for 3 years.
So let me ask you this question. The cultural and the historical connection between among the people of Africa is well documented. Why do you think we still have a problem of unity?
Well, the unity thing is more political than cultural.
So we have political disunity, but cultural
power,
unity.
Sharing power and so forth. That's really what the cultural thing needs some knowledge and understanding, but it is easy. I know I was in Tanzania for a whole term as a UNESCO expert doing a study of music in Tanzania. And I did a study of the divisions in the Central District.
Okay.
And I brought recordings,
and they could relate to it.
And I've transcribed them, and we play them with bamboo flutes.
And they could relate to it?
Oh, yes. Because, everywhere you go, you find something different. Africa, but something different. So your breadth, your understanding of African music is greatly enhanced by knowledge of different African cultures. What I found among the go-go and so forth was very different, but very exciting.
Exciting, okay. And
so now that's why I do Kosolosi.
Yeah, I was in Volta region some time ago, and I saw the deep, very deep connection between the Ewe and the Yoruba culture.
Oh,
just incredible.
Yeah,
the code, the language, everything. Okay, and you were there during the colonial period. You witnessed the independence. You saw the enthusiasm of Nkrumah and the pioneering leaders. But today you look at Africa, people are very despondent. Some people are calling the colonial master to come back. Why do you think, the question says, what do you think we went wrong?
Well, the thing is that we haven't really, the creative thing in development I mean, it is not only copying, because if you copy, the rationale behind what you are copying may not be the same.
Okay.
You see, so it is not just a
Copying.
Right, you know, so that really where, I mean, you can set up institutions and find that we are not ready to deal with them. You know, you can say, oh, I'll set up a committee to do things, and they cannot, you know, implement the decisions and so. So there's something that is lacking, you know, between dreaming and, you know, speaking something concrete and having
realizing your dreams,
the ways of implementing and so forth. It will take time.
It will take time, but you think we'll get it?
Oh, I think so. I think so. I think so. As long as, you know, right now, the difficulty is that those who get into the position of doing this become involved in other things.
Oh, and they're losing focus.
Yes, because, you know, your own part you're playing and your party and other things. All those are diversions.
What are the things you think you can do to remedy the situation?
Well, it will take some time. You know, it is really.
But what can we begin to do?
Well, we need to discuss. We need to look at some of these things, you know, in public context, you know, and really build up opinion and so forth for us.
But we have to make up our mind what we want to do.
Yes, we want to make up our mind. We also need to have, we need another orientation in our universities because...
what regard do?
Well, the thing that I felt in the US is that research and certain things are always related to things in the country. So that what you are researching
it must be relevant to your society.
Yes, may get even some support because it could be applied. You know, it is like having all those in the archive. It is there, but it's terrible because it is
not applying.
Because it is not really in the hands of those
the people should be using them.
Yeah.
And so the problem of dissemination.
Yes.
How do we tackle that?
Well, you see, I've tried a number of things. When I came back from America, retired from University of Pittsburgh at 70-something, I wrote a proposal to Rockefeller Foundation that I wanted to set up an international center for African music and dance here. And they were enthusiastic. They supported it. I had a conference in Bellagio. I had 30 scholars from various places. And by the end of the conference, the foundation had approved it and formed foundation. And there's for the Rockefeller and CD or something. They all joined, you know. And so for 10 years, I had the International Center for African Music and Dance here. And
at Lagos?
Yes. You know, right here.
And then what happened?
Yes. Well, I mean, a foundation can support you forever.
Forever, yeah.
You have to, but the scheme was such that I had people coming from Nigeria. You know, I even set up a small center at Ibadan. You know, another in South Africa and one in...
So it's really Pan-African collaboration.
That's right. The idea was to have a center where, you know, African scholars, musicians can come and think.
But then we went to your archive and we saw the materials there. Yes. How do you feel like an authentic African composition sitting down in the rooms there, while our airwaves have been saturated with foreign...
Well, the whole thing is the marketing of this. You see, you can't just, you know, put these on CDs and sell them. And you know, the marketing is a serious thing, you see. And really, you don't have a market for this kind of thing here in Ghana,
Africa,
because hip-hop and others.
But
other things.
That shouldn't that be the problem of the marketing department of the university to collaborate with you and start making commercial ventures?
Yeah, there's still not enough. You know. Even in Europe, there was a time when music from other parts of the world became very attractive. And when you go to a record shop, there's that. But that is beginning to change, So the focus should be here, where a policy, at least related to education, enables those who go through the school process to become acquainted with their own traditional things. And what they do with the materials is their business, you see. So you should know it.
But there are some countries where the government has policy that 40% of music play on the radio or the television must be indigenous.
Yeah, but when they say indigenous, they will include your contemporary. Your contemporary.
Yeah, even if they give you 10% to play your music on the air, that's still something.
Yeah.
So when you talk to the police,
I mean, they play in recordings of traditional music. There are other people who have recorded. I was very particular in not taking my thing to the commercial world because all the people who performed for me performed free.
Okay.
So
you don't want to commercialize it.
Right.
The problem, how do we popularize it without commercializing?
What I didn't want to happen was to find somebody in the village saying, I heard my music and it was being sold for something. It will defeat the whole
the problem of copyright.
Right. Yeah. So if we have a different kind of program where a few things are put on and it has a certain kind of circulation, now we can do it. But at that time, it was an extremely risky thing to do.
You are an elder statesman. Do our political leaders come to you for advice?
Well, they don't come on a regular kind of basis.
But you mean that?
But I mean, ever since Nkrumah's time, I've been part of things going on, and at least in the cultural field, in terms of being on the National Commission on Culture, and actually doing some.
Please, when you meet them, what do you tell them about what's happening in your area?
Well, I mean, I just follow my own program, but I contribute a lot. In the old days, I was contributing quite a lot to radio and television. Some of my compositions were used as signature tune. Was a signature tune for the literary program. And I did a lot of broadcasts.
You have won about 12 awards, including Ghana's member of the Order of the Star of Ghana.
Yeah.
So, what do those awards mean to you, sir?
Well, I mean, I'm happy that my country recognizes
your contribution.
Right. I mean, all that. Sometimes, I joke and say that when I was director of African Studies, almost every government that came gave me a little more money.
Okay.
Because they valued African Studies.
Really?
They valued the fact that we had an organization that was taking care of our culture. So from Nkrumah's time, during Nkrumah's time, I defended my budget separately from
the University of
when I was director. Because I had demonstrated that we have
contributed something. You are in retirement, sir? Yes. Can you tell us how do you feel your days? What is a typical day?
I have so many articles I've written. I'm putting them together. I'm compiling my papers, collected papers. The Prince Claus has helped me to publish the first one on African music and ethnomusicology. The second and third volumes are ready.
Are they going to publish it also?
Well, they give me a grant to cover the first one, and maybe I will see what happens.
So in a typical day, what do you do, sir?
Well, I come here now twice a week. I used to come every day because I thought I should make myself available to other people. And every time I come, students come from town,
to discuss with you.
Yeah, those who are writing dissertations and so forth.
You still have them.
Yeah, like you saw those
working for you.
they came, they saw me.
So you're always open to that?
Yes. So I give
your time
for that. But when I finish and I go home, my study is also very good.
You still studying at home?
Yes. Oh, yes, I'm writing. I'm writing papers and articles in my books.
Would you like to tell us something about your family?
Well, my family, I have two of my children, two girls.
Okay.
The boys, two boys, they have passed away, and my wife too. But when I was going to America, I was always with my wife.
Okay, you
we spent time in California. We lived in Pittsburgh, So, and our children, they come to visit and so forth. So,
how about your hometown, Mampong?
Mampong, well, that is my research base.
That's your research base? Okay. How often do you go there?
Not well, I used to go there frequently at the beginning. But now, it's so far away that even making the journey, it's difficult.
You were doing your original research at Mampong, but not anymore?
I started there because that was my hometown, and I knew people, and so and so it was easy to get into the field. You see, and to get the old women who will explain and so forth. So that was the foundation of my ethnomusicology, learning from my own people. From there, I could go to Ghana, other places, and study Yoruba musicians in Accra.
Yeah, you wrote a book about Yoruba music in Accra.
Yes, because I am fascinated by
the talking drum.
The people like this. And I was following them, going to their performances. And then I had a discussion with the Timmy over there.
Was he here?
Yes.
He came here?
No, I went there.
You went there? Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to the area because I went to other places, just to expand my vision of Africa. African music is not only Ghana. So everywhere I go, and I have been fortunate in terms of the early interest in the revival of African culture. Senghor's first African
president of Ghana.
Yes.
Were you at the first act?
Oh, yeah. Well, yes, I was at first act. I was at every festival. The first one.
So you're so passionate about African.
Yes, because it was a wonderful to see the whole of Africa
coming together.
Big thing. And first act, took it to another level.
Professor Nketia, thank you very much for this interview. Finally, how would you like to be remembered?
Well, I don't know. I'm trying to set up a small foundation, a Nketia Music Foundation.
Okay.
Because I have so many things scattered, my articles and recordings, and I have a lot of students, in America and other places.
What's going to be the aim of the foundation?
Just to ensure that materials are available, and that there is some continuity, and that those things that are publishable are published, and that income coming from this goes to support, so if there's a Nketia prize for music somewhere or that sort of thing, it can go on.
Thank you very much. You're still alive. I wish you all the best, sir. Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to talk with you.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, the guest today was Professor Kwabena Nketia of the University of Ghana. It has been wonderful talking to and sharing a day with him. And, he's an elderly person, but yeah, he's still very passionate about Africa.
I'll be 89.
This is a program
you'll
be 89 in June. I wish you all the best in your endeavor. The program is focused on Africans. We try to share ideas about how to move the agenda of Africa forward. And today, the crew has been a little bit changed. I have Moshe Wopade and Idowu Johnson, Saada to Sulemana, and greetings to Remi Akomalafe and Greg Westerfeld. Maria Noboye, salute. And Smaila Sulemana, I wish you all the best. My name is Femi Akomolafe, and on the next week I say Ireo.